Kennedy, founder of Pi-hole TV, and I really want to thank James for being here and speaking for us today. James is actually traveling to the Bay Area from Ireland, right? On a very tight schedule. We're very fortunate to have him here today and tell us about his experience on how he acquired his first 1,000 customers. Please welcome James Kennedy.
I find that ex-billionaires often have some of the best advice. Billionaires give you one sort of advice, but ex-billionaires give you a different type of advice. And this ex-billionaire from Texas called Keith Cunningham once gave me a bit of advice. He said, if you want to make money in business, there's only 3 things you have to do. You have to find out what people want, go and get it, and then give it to them. So last night, those words were ringing in my ear as I went onto Meetup.com and I read through all of the sort of feedback that you guys had put in when it came to what you were hoping to get out of this session. And I put it into a word cloud up there, because I love word clouds. And you can see that networking and meeting people is pretty high on the agenda. So thanks to Michael Page for paying for the pizza and the soda to help facilitate that. But apart from that, there's the rest of this, it's up to me to try and deliver for you. So people are looking for ideas, they're looking for how to get customers, hopefully. They'll be looking for some motivation, they're looking for synergy is a word I see up the top. So here's my commitment to you. If I haven't delivered all of this by the end of this talk, I'm going to guarantee that you have delivered all of this by the end of this talk, or I'm going to dance for you. Does that sound good? Have you ever seen an Irish guy dance? Raj has. It's indescribable, Raj. Yes. It is a thing of beauty. So whether you learn something or you're entertained, I'm going to do it for you this evening. So let's get going. So your first 1,000 customers. Sounds easy, but let's have a show of hands. Who has 0 or more customers right now? Hands up. I'll give you a hint, it's everybody. So if you haven't got your hand up, let's keep it up. Let's keep the hands up. Now let's see who has 10 customers. Okay, still quite a few people. 50. 100. Okay, there's one at the back here, 2 over here. 500. Still going. We've got 2, 3, 4 people left. 800 and 1,000. That's more than 1,000 customers. What are you doing here? Okay, I want to see. Let's see. That's 5,000. Not 5,000. Oh, I went too much. Okay. But anyway, the point is, it's hard. Getting 1,000 customers is really hard. And I would love to give you the blue pill and tell you exactly what you can do by tomorrow. But surprise, surprise, there's a lot of hard work to do. And what I hope to do is I'm going to show you how to do the right work, the work that works, as opposed to work that won't work. So, for the next 40 minutes, I've broken this up into 3 sections. The first section, I'm going to talk a little bit about me. I'm going to tell you what our project was, what we did, how we learned these lessons, and then you can decide how applicable that is to you. So it won't be applicable to all of you, but you might get a few lessons from it in any case. Then I'm going to go through the process, so basically how we came up. I'm going to tell you the framework that we used to try and automate the growing of our customers. When I say automate, it doesn't mean totally without human intervention. And then finally, I'm going to show you some specific examples of what we did. And then at the end, if you have enough time, we're going to do a little live session where I've asked people to bring along their best customer development ideas or their best ideas for getting a new customer. And if we have time, we're going to do a bit of a whiteboard session on it. Sound good? Yeah. Awesome. All right. So the first thing I should say is I've only given this talk twice in public. Normally, it's kind of a version of this is what we teach people who come to work with us. So everyone gets the same presentation, and really it gives them an overview of how to work at Pi-hole. So the good news is, by the end of this, you can come and work with us in Santiago in Chile, all right? You'll all be fully trained, promise. Okay, so let's go. So what is Pi-hole? Well, Pi-hole started 6 years ago, myself and my wife, Priscilla at the front here, and really all we wanted to do was quit the day job. Anyone have a day job here? Yeah, sucks, huh? Well, no, not necessarily, but it sucks for us, right? And we were very, very motivated to not have that day job anymore. So what we did, we tried lots of things which are a complete disaster in our spare time, but one of the things we do there over on the left-hand side was called Pi-hole voiceovers, which is at piehole.co.uk, piehole.ie, and it's basically one of the largest voiceover directories in UK and Ireland and probably Europe now at this stage. And how it works is that Priscilla, who was working in an advertising agency, would always come home in the evening and would complain how hard it was to find a voiceover for her radio or television ad that she was making. So we decided to build a website, put the actors up there, and slowly but surely we built up those customers. And most of the learnings that I have are from this business. So I'm going to tell you exactly how we built it up to our first 1,000 customers. Then only last year, we noticed that all of our voiceovers were getting hired for explainer videos, which are basically 60-second promotional videos to put on the front of your website. And Priscilla started producing those as well. I'm a software engineer, you call it. I trained in software engineering. I don't really have any marketing background. But what I do mostly is I look for new opportunities. I like the early stage of a company. So I spend most of my time in customer development, improving a market, and so on. So this is my favorite slide. I think it's the last bit of geekery left in me, but what I really like about this Excel spreadsheet is this was the motivation that drove us to lead us to quit our day jobs. And what it was it really stuck in my head that when one person pays you 10 grand a month, it's for you, they own you. But if you can get 250 or 300 people, even to pay you €20 a month, none of them own you. And if one or two of them leave, it doesn't really matter. So I put this spreadsheet together, and it was basically a load of pricing points in the middle. So these are the prices you could price your product at. And then along the top, you'd have the number of customers. And then along the left-hand side, you'd see the cash flow that you got. And really, at the beginning, all I cared about was getting over, 2 grand a month, whatever it would take, so I could focus full time, have my own cash flow to be able to develop my own businesses. I'm putting it up here because a lot of what we did was extremely hard. And this spreadsheet was my motivation through all of that time. Because I knew it was so achievable, it was so easy to generate this little bit of income, and it would make such a dramatic difference to our lives, that I thought about this all the time. So every time I was scraping my first customer, my second customer, the third one, and so on, I thought about this. And I'm mentioning it because you need to have something that you are really striving for too. If you don't have a burning desire, something that's really important to you, you may not succeed in what I'm about to talk about. So as soon as we got up to, I think, €1,500 a month in income, we left Dublin. We headed down to Argentina. I read a book called The 4-Hour Workweek, and we knew that we could live full-time, the two of us, off €1,500, €2,000 a month in Argentina. And this meant that, whereas before we were spending about, 3 hours a week on our business, now we had like 40 hours, 50 hours a week to focus on building our business, which logically means that we go straight to 40 or 50 times income, right? No, wrong. It doesn't work like that at all. And I think this is one of the key lessons you got to have. You're going to be working hard anyway, so it's great to get the right education so you at least have a chance of working on the right things. The most successful people in any sphere have the same 24 hours that you and I have. The only difference is they use them slightly differently. So this is my take on how you should go about using some of your time. So since Argentina, Priscilla's from South Africa. We've been over to South Africa in Europe. We spend kind of 3 months a year in each of these. We love spending time here because there's so many smart people here. But you'll notice we did end up in Chile at one stage. We were on a program called Startup Chile, which is an innovative program which gives 40k of seed level funding to anyone who needs it and can put a reasonable business plan together. There's 2 more rounds of applications this year. We were there at the very first start of the program 3 years ago. But now they're just accepting applications for the latest round. So if you need a bit of seed money and you need to go hide away in Santiago, work on your product, get your product up to a level where it's your MVP or whatever, it's a really, really good option. I really highly recommend looking into startupchile.org. So here's me in Chile. There's the Andes Mountains behind me. I took the picture facing out of the office because the office doesn't look nearly as pretty as the mountains. But now we have a small team there, and I'm going to show you how we got to there. So, along the way, we've done some fun things. We've tried all manner of approaches to getting new customers. We were reality TV contestants, I'm ashamed to admit, but that's on my CV. And what we did, we went on a program in Europe called Dragon's Den. Anyone heard of it? Yeah, it's like Shark Tank. And we had like 1 million people hitting our website fell over, all that sort of stuff. Didn't really work, and I'm going to talk about it later. And then more recently, I've been doing some interviews on podcasts like Mixergy, which, if you haven't heard of it, I highly recommend it. It's full of tutorials and stories from successful founders about how they got some level of success. So it's been a hell of a ride. Oh yeah, and if you want to find out more about any of these businesses, just Google Pi-hole Dragon's Den, and you'll see our videos. Pretty embarrassing now, but it's good fun. Okay, so that's us. Got a sense of who we are? Great, okay. So, then, let's talk about this. So we are so gifted that we are in an age which there is so much information available. It's never been a better time to start a business. It's never been so cheap. There's never been so much support. There is a dearth of information out there. Everything from the business model canvas right down to specific products that can help you do your PR, like Ben has a product that can help you do your PR, or specific tactics for finding more customers. There's like almost too much information. There's blogs like Kissmetrics and all the rest. And if you're a tech founder, it's brilliant. So what I'm going to talk about is somewhere between the business model canvas at a high level, where you come up with your cool ideas, and it's below that, but it's above the kind of individual specific tactics. Because my basic contention is that you already know what you have to do to get your first 1,000 customers. The only problem is you're probably not doing it, or it's hidden in the trees somewhere. It's just, there's so many options out there, you're getting overwhelmed. And what we did, we also were overwhelmed by this. So we needed some way of organizing all the different strategies that we could possibly employ, and then testing them to see if they were working or not. Okay? All right. So, now, anyone heard of this book, Instant Cash Flow? Not surprising, really, okay? So this isn't quite as high concept, and the Instant Cash Flow is written by a business coach in Australia called, I've forgotten his name now. Brad Sugars, yeah, Brad Sugars, my hero, Brad Sugars. He lives in Las Vegas now. He has extremely white teeth, and he has a very successful marketing company, coaching companies all around the world. Now, Brad is very good at selling, as you can probably tell from the title of his book. And when this book was recommended to me, I have to admit, I was a little bit cringeworthy of taking it up. But I did buy a copy, and I read it, and what was in it literally transformed our level of success and our level of how we managed to move our business forward. So Brad has, I want to call it like business for dummies. So he has like extremely simple ways of explaining how you should grow your business. And because it's very simple, it means you can explain it to anyone and everyone in your company, which is a lot of benefit to that. So that means when people come on board, we can give the same training to everyone, even me, right? So if I can get it, sure, everyone else who's going to work with me is going to get it. And his contention is there are only 5 ways, 5 numbers you have to look at to improve your business. And I've got them up on the board here behind me, but I'm going to tell them to you anyway. The first one is the number of leads you're getting into the business. Let's define a lead. In our case, that means in a SaaS app, normally it's like a name and an email address. In our case, we take that a bit further. We say a name and a phone number. And the second is a conversion rate. Obviously, how many of them convert from a sign-up or having their contact information to a paying customer. Then we move on to their average dollar sale, how much they pay, the number of transactions, how many times they pay, and finally margin. And margin is just the cost in your business. Salaries, office space, servers, all the rest, advertising spend. So he says all you have to do is, really the genius of what he's saying is that increasing any one of these by 1,000%, which is what you've got to do when you're going from 0 customers, right? I know that doesn't make sense, but when you're going from 100 customers, is quite hard. It can be done, but of course it can be done. But he says that any improvement in any of these areas will have an equal effect on the bottom line. So sometimes the way to get ahead faster is to look at your leads and your conversion rate, as everyone talks about all the time. And sometimes it's about looking at your margin, number of transactions, upselling, cross-selling, and all that sort of stuff. So in this talk, we're just looking at the first 1,000 customers. So we're just going to look at number of leads and conversion rate. When you read the book, how it works is like this. There are 5 sections under each of the 5 titles, and each one is a specific marketing strategy or basically job for someone to do that will improve that metric. Does that make sense? So he talks in the book about cafes, lawyers, hardware stores, all types of different businesses. And he will give examples like this. He will say, in order to get more leads into your business, let's say a coffee shop, put a sandwich board outside on the pavement, right? You guys have sandwich boards, right? Like a sign. Put a sign on the pavement outside. And then he'll say, or another option would be you could take out maybe cinema advertising. And if you advertise in the cinema, maybe more people will come to your cafe. But he rates each of these ideas in a 5-star system. And what that means is you can look through and you can see, okay, this strategy is cheap and easy, I can do it straight away, let's do it. Or this strategy, for example, cinema advertising, doesn't really work, it's expensive, you have to do a lot of production and everything, so I'm not going to do that now. And that principle basically is what we do for growing our marketing. What we could do is we look at all the potential ways of finding of improving our leads or conversions, and then we schedule that out in our diary, we put in a metric to see whether it's working or not, and then we test that metric, and then each month we drop the bottom 2 performing tactics and we replace them with another idea from the list. So let's go through an example. So, obvious stuff, your first 1,000 customers is obviously a combination of the number of leads you have, 8,000 leads times B percentage rate of conversion. The important thing for me is that these 2 activities are extremely different in your mind. You have generally speaking, they're a very different way of looking at your business. And you have to do them both in balance. So if you're not improving your number of leads and improving your conversion rate, then you're leaving money on the table. And oftentimes it's easier to create an incremental improvement in both areas rather than a super improvement in one area. So now we're getting down to the bread and butter, which is how do you implement this, which is genius in plain sight in my view. This is going to sound very rudimentary, but it really works. All you have to do is take out 2 blank sheets of paper with 32 lines on it, and you have to brainstorm or ideate, let's call, 32 ways of moving each of these numbers, improving each of these numbers. And I'm going to give you some examples of what we did along the way, some things that worked and didn't work in a second. What you'll have then basically is a universe of ideas that which could possibly work for you. What will happen is you'll probably put AdWords at number 1 on lead generation. You'll go down to on conversion. You might put in an email campaign. You'll put out the first 10 pretty easily, and then after 10 to 15, it gets a little bit trickier. By the time you get into 25, you're scratching your head, and it's half an hour later, and you want to give up. But by the time you get to like number 29 is normally the kicker. It's normally the marketing technique that other people have overlooked and therefore has less competition and therefore can be more successful for you. Now, no one said this was kind of fun, but when you sit down and you schedule out time for it, so for example, let's say half a day for your leads, half a day for your conversion strategy, and you don't do anything else for that day. You get disciplined and you just sit down and you really research the web, research the crevices of your creativity, and you will be able to fill up these 2 sheets. Now, let me make it much, much easier for you. This is the Mint marketing plan. A guy called Noah Kagan came up with it. It's the plan that Mint used to launch. And this is the best sort of workbook or sort of tutorial I've seen on how to fill up that first sheet. The genius part about this plan is, before you do anything else, it gets you to sit down and ideate or brainstorm 8 potential customer segments for your product. So you'll have to figure out, so you can, I'm a big believer in that your product might do one thing, but it can be described many different ways. So, for example, in the voiceover business, we would have a couple of segments. One of them would be actors who already act full-time on a stage, but then they want to make extra money because they can perform, and they've heard that doing voiceovers is a good way of doing that. A second segment for us might be DJs who are working in a radio station, who might fill in the odd bit of voiceover for cheap ads that they're making, but they know that there are higher paying ads available from advertising agencies that they never get a shot at. And once you put a name or a specific segment around your customer, it makes it far easier to figure out where to generate leads for them, right? So if I was to ask you, how do you get leads for voiceovers, it can be, well, AdWords, blah, blah, blah. But if you start to look at, well, how do you develop leads for DJs who are working in stations in a geographic area, then it becomes easier. You can start to think of, well, beyond the AdWords, we can always just like send them a postcard. Postcard marketing works. Or you can decide to, well, is there an AGM or is there a conference where DJs go to hang out? Or if you're going to go after the actors, you can say, well, theatres. Obviously, actors hang out in theatres. Maybe we can start putting posters up in theatres. Maybe we can find people who train actors to resell our services. So does that explain how coming up with marketing ideas is pretty tricky? But once you make it like you can see the whites of the eyes of the customers you're going after, it gets the brain juices going a lot faster, and it will help you to fill up that sheet much quicker. Conversion tactics. Now, thankfully, there's a lot of lines in conversion tactics you are already filled up for you. If you own a SaaS app or in any sort of software you're selling, these days there's very well-known tactics. Some of them I would just say are a gimme, things you should do. Things like email responders using Aweber, Constant Content, something like that. So as soon as someone's come into your funnel, as soon as someone's put an email address in, you know you should be in contact with them on a regular basis. Trying to get a customer to buy your product is somewhat analogous to dating. Really, no one, I don't know if anyone does, it didn't for me anyway, no one puts out on the first date. So what that means is that when someone's first aware of your customer, you can't straight away go say, hey, I want to marry you. Because it's not going to work. It's going to be scary. Anyone had that happen to them? Did it work? No, of course it's not going to work, right? So you can't just be too blunt about it. You've got to woo your customers. Email marketing is a really nice, low-touch way of doing it. We all are quite accustomed to giving up our email addresses, certainly if it's something we're interested in. And then if you can deliver value to those customers over time through email or other mechanisms, you start to build up trust. And trust is the key ingredient when it comes to conversions. Because I can tell you that my product is, for example, Pi-hole, if you're a voiceover, is going to make you more money. But, and you might say, well, logically, if he's telling the truth, then of course I should sign up. The only thing that stops you is the fact, well, maybe this guy isn't telling me the truth. So building up trust in your prospects is a key activity. Some of it you can do automatically, like sending out a really nice email responder. But I would say I'd have to recommend, certainly for your first customers, spend the time to individually email each one. Okay, let's go through the next one. Phone consults. So really, who wants to sell software over the phone, right? But personally, phoning your customers, even at the 1,000th customer, is very, very worthwhile. And it might not seem like the sort of thing that would scale, and in fact I'm going to recommend things that don't scale. There's one reason, and one reason alone you should phone your customers. I've worked on a lot of different products, some of them made money, and I found that there's a couple of numbers that keep cropping up over and over. For a SaaS app, or for where your customers are wafting in over the web and signing up, between 0.5% and 1.5% is a typical subscription rate. So that means 0.5% of people put in their email address, fill out the form, and buy your product. Time and time again, 1 in 10, that's 10% of people that I contact and I talk to will end up buying the product, which doesn't sound like a big difference, but it's 20 times more customers. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because at the early stages of product development, and early stages of your company, you don't have enough leads. You can't afford a 0.5% conversion rate. You might be only having 100 people a week or a month coming to your website. You might be generating 10 customers or 10 leads a week, even less. And at that stage, it means that you need to attack strategies which are more aggressive in terms of creating a higher conversion rate. Now, I'm going to talk a lot about using the phone because I'm a big believer in it, but let's go through some of the others. Now, one-to-one appointments, this can also work. My experience is assuming you have a reasonable product that's ready to roll, achieve some degree of product market fit with a bit of credibility behind you, you'll get 1 in 3, maybe 1 in 2 people that you meet face to face will buy your product. Now again, you might be saying, well, how am I going to scale that? But then look at where you are in terms of your product life cycle at the moment. If you've got 10 leads a month, you've got to try and meet all of them. And of course, this is going to change. As time goes on, as your number of leads increases, you can use less aggressive strategies in terms of talking to your customers and converting them. Of course, some of them can scale right along with you. There's other things I can do, these are just like the ones which have created the best bump for us. Offering plenty of payment options. Just be surprised how people still want to pay by direct debit and all this. Things like Stripe are making this very easy these days. More payment and credibility. Credibility is like key when it comes to getting people to convert. So I'm going to talk now through some of the things that we did along our journey to improve each of these areas. But I would say in your list of conversion tactics, these are a gimme. So our first 100 customers, let me tell you how we started off. We cheated. Priscilla was complaining about not finding new voiceovers to work. She worked in an ad agency. She was spending tens of thousands of euros a month hiring voiceovers, but it was the same guys that were coming up over and over. So what we did is we found a CD of voiceover demos. We ripped them from the CD, and on the back of the CD were phone numbers of all of the people who were on the CD. And this is how people were sort of traditionally marketed in the advertising agencies or the recording studios around Dublin. So we put them all up on the website. We pre-populated I listened to all of their demos. I categorized them for them, or Priscilla categorized all the demos. And then we rang them up and we said, hey, you're on our site. We're going to get work for you. And is that okay? Some of them said, what are you doing with my voice? That's my voice. Take it down straight away, and we took it down. Others said, sure, why not? It's not costing me anything, which is my first mistake. Let's give it a go. So we waited for 6 months, and for some reason, we were starting to get work for people. So people were being hired through the site, but for some reason, no one was volunteering their credit cards. You'd think that out of the 200 people we put up there, someone would have said, geez, I just got a gig for 10 grand, I better pay these guys something. But it turns out no one did. They must have been very busy making all the money. So this wasn't going to work as a business, obviously, so we picked up the phone again. This time I called them and I said, listen, it's €10 a month. Would you mind awfully if I took your credit card details and we'll activate you on the site and continue to get work? 9 out of 10 people said no. So that means I was sitting there and I really didn't like using the phone that much at this stage. And I had to call 10 people before one person would say yes. It was a horrible activity. It was not something I liked doing. But it was undeniable. Every time I picked up the phone, I managed to screw up enough courage to talk to the customers. If I talked to 10, one would buy. So slowly but surely I started to realize that, hold on, is there a way I can make this work? So I went back to our, so I won't give it all away here. So that's what we did. Someone would say, yeah, I'll give you €10 a month. I'd say, thanks very much for the credit card information. I put down the phone. I pick up the phone again, I ring Priscilla, and I say, you got to hire this guy. He just gave us €10. Priscilla would promptly give him a job, and he would say, wow, this Pi-hole thing really works. It's fantastic. A couple of years later, Priscilla lost her job, but it's nothing to do with that, I promise you. So we have to seed the pump a little bit. Indeed, in today's parlance, you'd say we have to demonstrate value. Until you demonstrate value, no one is going to pay you. So that's what we did. So I already mentioned the phone was killing it in terms of conversion. There was the market size, God help you, no one go into the voiceover business, I guarantee it's terrible. Market size in total for us in Dublin were 700 voiceovers. which was another reason that we couldn't wait for a 0.5% conversion rate. We had to get at least 10% of those just to get off the ground in Ireland, and then we could go on to the UK at least. So that's what we did. The other thing we did was, at the early days, we looked for groups of people who could buy, you know. So, and we went out to organisations like actors' unions, theatres, anyone we could find. We'd eyeball them, we'd meet up with them, and we'd offer them like steep discounts, very steep discounts on joining the site. And groups of people, oftentimes there are lots of organisations you can work through or you can do deals with to help accelerate your customer development, help find more customers at the early days. And this was pretty effective for us, sometimes effective, sometimes less so. We did things like throw parties, people come drink all the wine and then leave the next day, but never mind that. It was very good in terms of, because we were affiliated with another body, again coming down to credibility. If we were recommended by your union, you were far more likely to sign up with us, and this really helped. This is why it's in the conversion side. Now, next thing, we were kind of up to whatever, over 120 customers or so at this stage. And this is when we started to discover I started to read up about something called information marketing. So I think everyone knows what information marketing is. It's basically creating tools or ebooks and stuff that you can give away or sell. And what we did was we knew that people were converting best when we talked to them on the phone. So we didn't want to give them a virtual product. Instead, we gave them a physical book. We went around and we printed these books. And then when they signed up, we asked for their address so we could send the book to them. And also we asked them their phone number in case the book got lost or something. So it created a logical reason for people to provide us with more contact information. Then I would wait a week, I'd post out the book, I'd wait a week, I'd follow up, and I'd call them and say, did you get the book? And they would say yes. And then I'd say, are you interested in getting more work as a voiceover? And then I was into my discussion with them. So it wasn't particularly pretty, but at the early stages, it worked. And just about at this stage, we had just gone to Argentina, so I was swimming in time. Like, I had lots of time on my hands. But I needed to create more customers. I was like, so this worked very well for me. I was willing to put in the time to get the early people. In a way, the best way to explain it was I was over-servicing the sales cycle. Even though they were only paying us 200 or 2,000 euro a year, it was still worth my while to do this. So that's what we did. So look strongly at, before you try to sell your customer, educating them. If there's something that you can do to help educate your customer, they will see you as an expert in their mind. So Priscilla, in this case, was a copywriter. She hired voiceovers. She was in the perfect position to advise voiceovers as how they could get hired more often. So think about how you can educate your customers. What do you know that your customers would like to know more about? Are there other experts that you can partner with so that you can produce material to help your customers in some way? And what we did is we took it from two levels. We gave away stuff. Once we had the email address, we started partnering to do training with other people, with sound studios, and that would cost a certain amount of money. And then once they'd done the training, we would charge them another amount of money to get their demo cut and so on. And then finally they would end up on the site. So we charged them something small at the beginning, free, 40 euro, and then maybe about 100, 500 euro for their training, and then they'd end up spending 2,000 euro to go on the site. So oftentimes, it's not just about selling your product, but you have to think about what are the other services around that you could help to add to your cash flow. Now the genius about this is, those early products oftentimes will pay for your marketing strategy. So if you're using paid search or something like this, you have an extra cash flow which you can plow back into your paid acquisition strategies. It works really well. And plus, your conversion rates at the end, where you want your customer to be, will be far, far higher. So we did all sorts of things, like this is the Dragon's Den show we were on, and over 1 million people saw it. It cost us about $5,000 to fly back from Argentina to Dublin to do the show, not to mention not being employable in any job ever after that ever again. And we made about $5,000 in sales. So it was a bit of a wash when it came to promoting ourselves. I thought, great, 1 million people will see this, we're sorted. But the conversion rate was terrible. And in general, this has been our experience with media in general. So we've been on radio and TV, we've done a load of different things, and the but the conversion has been terrible in terms of sales. Now, can anyone tell me why I put it in the conversion sheet instead of the lead gen, right? Because you'd think you go on TV, you get loads of leads. Why would that be?
It gives you a lot more credibility. Their brand rubbing off on you, it's going to help you complete the sale. Right?
Exactly. Credibility. Ben is such an expert at this. It's all about credibility. If you make a claim, the only difference between that claim and their credit card number is them believing that you are going to do what you said you can do. So partnering with people who have more credibility with you, or getting logos of ex-customers, which we're all used to now, on the front of your website, backing that up with surrounding yourself with respectable, maybe more advanced businesses, will help wonders in terms of getting meetings, getting people to sign up, and so on. So now what I noticed then was, I was pretty disappointed about the sales. What I noticed then was for the following year, we were constantly getting a dribble of emails saying, or when we would contact some people, they say, oh yeah, I remember seeing you on TV. Yeah, that was kind of cute. You guys were good. And that really dramatic. If they had seen us on TV, or if they heard us on the radio, they were, I think it was, I don't know, but I think it feels like it was at least 40 times more likely that they were going to buy. It was almost certain they were going to buy if they had heard of us before, because we were on this big TV show and people thought that had credibility. Again, the phone was working really well for us, but at this stage I was getting a bit worried because I felt like, oh crap, I've created a telesales job for myself, right? Am I going to do this for the next 40 years? This isn't what I had in mind when I thought about leaving the day job. So what we did was we went to Chile, we got a little bit of money there, and that allowed us to start hiring our telesales operation, and we started building it out. And that meant that what I used to do, our employees now do. And for me, there are three major ways of scaling your business fast. There's social, and if your product's social, fantastic, but it's not hard luck. There's paid search, so that's like, we're paid search, AdWords, paying for customers, generating leads for consumers certainly. And then finally, it's inside sales. Although no one really talks about it. There's lots and lots of customers. If you're able to create a cash flow positive sales cycle, you can build out and you can build a telesales operation that will scale your business far faster than anything else. And the real reason why this is so powerful is that at the early stages, you only have so much runway. But remember, 10% conversion rate is 20 times better than 5.5%. That means you'll achieve your revenue goals 20 times faster. It means that you'll be able to have more resources available to you. Like, the benefits of it are enormous. And it's why I'm so keen, or at least looking at it. It worked really well for us, and I always look for a business which can use this tactic because it's like a hidden gem. I think it's kind of underrated. So now once by the time we got to 250 customers, I told you about the market size in Ireland, 700 people, terrible idea. So then we started looking at other countries. We moved to the UK, started acquiring customers there, and we found that the initial strategies that we used in Ireland worked really well in the UK. Then we started to internationalize our site. We looked for other countries. We started actually sprinkling versions of Pi-hole around the world. Some of them we monetized, some of them we didn't, but all of them were accruing SEO value. We were giving some spots away free, and now what we're doing is we're coming back to all of these sites and we're starting to monetize them now. But at a stage you have to realize thankfully we're sitting here in the middle of a lovely big fat market, and this might not be a problem that you're facing, but you should think about ways that you can attach new customer segments. So don't just keep going after the old customers over and over and again. Reimagine your product. Think about how it could be used in a different way. And oftentimes, different description, same product, you can open a whole new market. It's a very, very simple, powerful technique that pretty much any product can employ. Let me talk a few words about AdWords. Anyone using AdWords? Paid search. How's it going? Really well? No, it's terrible, right? It's horrible. Doing AdWords is a black belt, ninth level black belt technique. It depending on your niche, it can be extremely hard to get right when you have a small number of customers. There are some people who manage to do it, but you need to be really, really good. And if you're not really good, you're really analytical, it's like a samurai sword. I recommend not everyone use one. So instead, leave it down. There is one thing that I find that AdWords is really good for, which is research. Finding out the demand in your market, finding out everything from SEO research to finding out actually how customers are describing their own products or how they're describing what they're looking for. And then you can use all that language using the keyword research tool and so on, regurgitate that, put that back on your website or your microsites so that you're at least talking the language of your customers when you do talk to them. Okay, so let's talk about a strategy that worked better. We had what I call an antiviral product. You know what an antiviral product is? It's a product where people don't want you to know they're using it. So, for example, if you're a voiceover, you don't want to tell your other voiceovers, aka competition, where you're getting all your work. And then, funnily enough, if you're a voice seeker or copywriter or producer, you don't necessarily want to tell other people either, because that's your secret resource of cool voice talent. So we didn't have a product that was viral, and we kind of given up on, it wasn't available to us. So we didn't worry about it. But then we decided to think, well, what could we do to create more word of mouth? Because we knew word of mouth was one of the things everyone was talking about. So we appealed to people's vanity, and we created this competition, which was a demo of the year competition, where we gave prizes away. Basically, all we did was gave badges like that away to people who had the best demo. And how we decided the best demo was we ran a Facebook competition. The most likes on a demo would get you into a shortlist. And then we got some really, really top-end producers from big ad agencies to review those demos and to give out the award. So at the very least, if you got into the final, you had really cream customers of the voiceovers reviewing those demos. It worked really well. And it worked well on two levels. The first level got lots of customers the first time. The second thing was, by this stage, we were learning how to measure. So at the beginning, we were kind of riding roughshod. But now, this demo is clearly, or this demo of the year competition, you can see it in our analytics. There's a big spot, there's a big spike, which is important for two reasons. First reason is, only 1 in 10 marketing activities that we run ever really works, ever really moves the needle. Which means we can only do, on average, 10 things a year that are really put a lot of effort behind to try and create more customers. So having one that works and that we measured that it works, means that we can use it again the second year, or the second cycle, whatever it might be. So we can compound our marketing activity, right? So we start to discover what works, and then we can put that on top of what has already been working, and then after a while you'll get this snowball effect of killer marketing activities. But you have to accept that most of them aren't going to work. So when they do work, make sure you've measured it, make sure you know how to reproduce it. So at this stage, we had 3 people on the phone at this stage. The phone was working really well. We're paying about €3 per customer through paid acquisition strategies. It cost us another €2 to send them a book in the post. We gave a 20% commission to our sales staff. Basically, it worked out to about 33% of our gross profit went to our sales or customer acquisition activity. Now, it's really nice if you have a paid product at the bottom of your funnel, because then you can assign part of that product price to your marketing activities. At the beginning, it might be all of it, but you should definitely have an idea of what you are willing to spend in your head per customer. And that makes all your decisions about what to do later on much, much easier. Okay, cool. So at this stage then we were getting over 500 customers, and then we were getting enough leads to worry about some of the fancier techniques. So now we were getting into what you might traditionally call growth hacking. So this is A/B testing, this is commenting on Quora, this is doing stuff with APIs. It's basically now, because we have enough flow of leads into our business, a 5 or 10% improvement in the number of leads we have would be significant and worth doing. So at the beginning, we only had so much time, right? So we didn't have enough time, anything that would move the needle in a small way, we didn't have enough time for. We were struggling for oxygen. We needed to work harder. And later on then, as the numbers got bigger, the maths make sense. So it's kind of like a seesaw. At the beginning, you do stuff which is low in, you might hit stuff that doesn't generate a lot of leads, but does have a high conversion rate. And then towards the end, the seesaw starts to move. And if some of those early strategies are pay for themselves, like telesales or whatever else, you can continue to do those, that's great. But if they don't, it doesn't really matter, you can start to drop them, and you can start to rely on your higher flow of leads. And this is where timing comes in, because if you're going from a zero start, it's hard to have a lot of leads from the gate unless you've had some sort of partnership or other unfair advantage. So don't be afraid of doing it, whatever it takes, whatever your creativity can come up with, no matter how hard it is to get your first customers. You know, you should be spending maybe 3 or 4 times the amount of effort you spend building your product as you are selling it. So if you're spending more time in your text editor, or if you're spending more time behind your computer and not enough time talking to customers, just take note of it. What I do is, we track all the time, is how many people did I talk to today? An easy rule of thumb is, I want to talk to 20 people a day. If I'm talking to 20 people a day, that means at least I'm asking them for money, right? At least I'm in the shop. But if I'm hiding behind my text editor, where my natural inclination is, to be honest with you, then that's not going to grow my business. And the same goes for our salespeople. So this is just a really nice tool. There's lots of tools out there. This is just the one I really like for A/B testing. I'll just throw it out there. It's all very famous. The great thing about this is anyone in your company can use it. It means that anyone can run tests very easily. It's an A/B testing tool, in case you don't know. It's just the one that we've been using most recently, and I recommend having a look at it. I'm not going to talk too much about A/B testing because it's written about ad infinitum. Cool. So, your action plan. How are we doing in terms of time? So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you 41 minutes in, so perfect timing. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a little mini version of what you need to do to fill up your time for your marketing time. You've got to set yourself a bar of how much time you're going to be asking customers for money, how much time you're going to be spending looking for new customers. And you've got to fill up your diary. But fill up your diary with what? So what I'd like to do is I'd like to get someone from Workspace up. Where's maybe Raj or Cynthia or someone who's brave enough? Workspace? Cynthia, Raj, do you want to come? Anyone? Where are they? I mean, come on, what are you doing? You're not listening. Okay, round of applause, because this guy's about to get embarrassed. Oh, come on, let's give him a round of applause. Yeah, that's it. We're in America. Come on, let's go to enthusiasm. There we go. All right. I'm going to turn this off. You can all hear me out. Okay. So, let me show you a mini version of what you got to do, right, to actually get marketing. Because most people are actually doing the work is the hard part sometimes. So, we're going to start off with the Mint marketing plan. They recommend that you come up with 8 customer segments, but I'm just going to ask for 1 customer segment for the moment. So give me 1 customer segment. Who's a good, nice type, someone who could use Workspace?
A software team,
yeah,
maybe with a closed group of people who are working in a distributed environment.
Okay.
So like a startup with 5 developers and 2 designers, that can be a typical customer.
Okay, that's really good. That's not a bad start actually. So it's still quite broad, but let's look at our target. So we have, did you say 5 developers?
Yes.
5 devs, 1 designer,
1 manager.
1 manager. Tell us a bit more about it. Just a specific group of people. Where are they? They're working distributed in a distributed environment.
Yes. So they are located in different locations. And
okay.
They have a precise set of tasks. They follow a agile development methodology, like a Scrum.
Scrum. Okay, very good. That's good. Okay. So we're getting a better idea, right? So now you kind of go into this in a bit more detail, but it gives an idea who we're marketing for. Does anyone meet this description, by the way? Awesome. You should sell to that guy later. Okay. All right. That's called lead generation. All right. So. Okay. So. What I'm going to do now is, I've asked a few people to come on the meetup.com last night. I asked people to come up with their best marketing techniques for addressing our customer, finding a new customer. So does anyone want to start me off with something they've done which has been really good for getting customers? No customers whatsoever. Come on, what about all the guys who had 1,000 customers and 500 customers?
A lot of people want to learn Scrum, have a product on Scrum. I put a YouTube video, I got 40,000 hits. A lot of people sign up, most of them free, by the way.
Cool. Did you hear that? I couldn't hear.
So YouTube viral video, that's what is your...
So 40,000, anybody can see, learn and implement Scrum in 30 minutes. That's my video. 40,000 people are there.
Alright.
Tonight there will be...
Okay.
Alright.
Okay.
So,
But people signed up from there.
So it's video marketing, kind of content marketing for using video.
Yeah, and then we talk more about Scrum. And
Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop you there because we've got a lot to do. So, would you say this generates leads or it converts people better?
It generates leads, but the problem is probably I might have to start up that free offer. People just sign up free and then.
Okay, that's cool. That's awesome. So now, can someone give me an idea for the other side of the equation? What will convert better? An idea that really you did, or that would work for Workspace, that could really transform their conversion strategy.
A 30-day free trial.
Say again?
A free trial, a 30-day free trial for people.
Interesting. Okay. So free trial, I would actually put over here because they're not paying. Well, I'm glad you said that because what I'm talking about is convert to paid. Right? And I guess you could argue that actually, yeah, I mean, maybe that might help them make their decision. Personally, I hate free trials. I really hate them. All I want everyone to put a credit card number in at least to try the product, right? And it's been shown over and over again that you want to ask for a credit card. People who put in their credit card first are far, far more likely to convert to paying customer than someone who hasn't. So, but the principle stands. Now, you see, we've got 2 on leads. Yeah.
Raise price.
Raise your price. I love that. That is fantastic. It's nothing to do with what we're talking about. But I would say that's great. But I would say what I'm looking for, explain to me how raising your price would improve your conversion rate.
Somehow or other, by raising price, you can get people to respect your product more and get them to convert.
Okay. Okay. All right. I don't believe it, but I like it as an idea. We'll try it tomorrow. Okay. So that's right.
Workspace will be more expensive.
Okay, all right. Okay, now I forgot to mention, I have a prize. Maybe this will motivate people a little more. I've got a couple of t-shirts to hand out. And the best suggestion, I'm going to give a copy of Lean Analytics, which is under the projector here at the moment. You can't see it, but it's an awesome book. And Lean Analytics is going to tell you how to measure your product, measure what you're doing properly. Plus, you're going to get an hour's consultation with the author. So I met him at the weekend. He said he'll spend an hour with you setting up the analytics for your company. Awesome? Yes! Awesome. Okay. At the back?
Yeah, so if you're going to do the content issue and you want to convert it, then you want to specify maybe high-profile people who will take that idea if they see it one time and take it to the next level where people who can actually do something with that content on a larger scale, having that person-to-person communication with them will help you convert that.
Okay, so are you talking about better marketing collateral or what?
Well, it's like if he's marketing it to 40,000 people on YouTube, they
Yeah.
may not, that might not convert it to anything. But if one of those people is somebody who's a senior executive in a hospital who would be able to use Workspace, then that is a high conversion.
Okay, so what's the action? What would you do to improve this?
I would market it specifically to people in high executives.
That is a great idea, right? Now, what we're doing here is we're trying to fill up our diary with stuff to do. So if you had 5 hours to do this, what would you do to actually affect that?
I would send out emails. I would try to see, what kind of contacts that I have who may have.
Okay, that's a great one actually. Your personal contacts, right? Mightn't be flashy, but going through your Gmail contacts, looking at the people you know right now. So, have you done this? Because Raj knows like everyone on the planet, right?
Yes.
So, let's look at our Gmail contacts.
And I would say LinkedIn connections also.
Okay. All right, we're going to do one more, or 2 more, sorry. That was very good. That was very good. Yeah?
Yeah. Money back guarantee.
Money back guarantee, fantastic. Okay, that's really good. Money back guarantee. Okay, we're on a roll now. I couldn't get to say anything earlier, now you won't shut up. Okay, go on.
Some sort of upgrade or premium service.
Upgrade. Okay, that's very good. Now what I would do is I would put tiered pricing under the 2 other categories I talked about at the beginning. Average dollar sale, right? So a way of getting people to spend at a higher amount. That is an excellent strategy. It's just not the one we're looking for. It's not like leads or conversion rates. So, sorry, I was going to ask Jude, right? James,
yeah.
right?
For lead gen, I would go on Meetup.com and crawl every single designer or co-working developer like Meetup across Canada, the US.
Yes.
That's a lead list right there.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, now we're thinking at scale. That's what I came to Silicon Valley for, right? That's brilliant. So let's write a script to crawl and generate a DB, or more likely just hire someone, offshore to go through, build up a contact list for you. That's a very, very good suggestion. Maybe one more, just even it out. Or no, it's okay, we've got 3. Okay, so what I wanted to do in this exercise was to show you, there wasn't a flood of ideas there, right? But it can be, and the good news is, most of your competitors won't bother doing this exercise with any sort of mental rigor. Which means that if you do it, you'll be right ahead of them straight away. And effectively, what we'll do then is, okay, you want to tell us which dude, now in Brad Sugar's book, what he did is he put stars beside them. But what you would do is, once you generated 30 of each of these, you evaluate them according to the resources you have available. So, which of these take only time and no money? All of them, maybe? No. You need to...
Content marketing.
Pardon?
Content marketing.
Content marketing? Okay, good. That's a good idea. How much resource do you have in the next month? 100 hours? 100 days? 10 days?
40 hours.
40 hours, okay. So let's say, are you a good writer? You look like a good writer. You're a good writer. So let's say you've got only 40 hours in the next month.
Yes, for content marketing. Not for the whole project. For
okay,
marketing.
okay, interesting. You're only going to spend 40 hours. There's a team of 4 of you.
Yes.
And there's only going to be about 20% of your capacity is going to be spent on marketing.
That's what is our plan. But
that's what your plan.
I would like to hear what you suggest.
Okay, right. I would suggest quadrupling that straight away, right? Because what's going to happen is, like the product, there are 2 types of problems. It's like, what's Bill Cheney say? There's problems we know about and there's problems we don't know about, right? You know how to build a product, right? You hire engineers, you do the stuff, you put your heads down, you get it done. The risk is you don't know if there's anyone who wants to buy the thing. And the risk is, or you do know who they are, but you don't know how to get to them. So if I were you, I would be focusing all of my resources almost on solving that risk and addressing that risk first. Because if you do that, then it doesn't really matter. If you're just creating a nail and you can't find any, if you're creating a hammer and you can't find any nails, then what's the point, right? So that's just my point of view, because this has kind of come from years as a programmer who's like coded something, no one bought it, code some harder, still no one bought it. So you gotta take this seriously. You gotta look at marketing and sales. It's like it is the business. Your business isn't just a product; it's everything around it. So you gotta be putting. I'm gonna upgrade. Congratulations! You gotta upgrade the amount of effort you're putting in. Right? Yes. You're about to put 100 days in next month. 3 of you are only going to be working about this stuff. Right? I'm sure someone else is smart enough to look after everything else. Right? Okay. So let's allocate one of you, let's say 30 days to do your content marketing, right? And to be honest with you, for example, to make content marketing work, there's an excellent use case by the guy who does Buffer app. They dedicated someone full-time for 6 months in order to get their content marketing work. That's the sort of level of commitment you need. It's not good enough to say I'm going to have a blog. You've got to have the best blog. It's not good enough to say I'm going to do 1 a week. You've got to really kill it, because if you're not really killing it, then how are you expected to be the best? It's not going to work, all right? Okay, what about free trial? Okay, this is a kind of a gimme, right? This is an engineering thing, take a week of effort.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So you said to create a blog like the best blog, right? And that's what we were thinking about, having a strategy around blog.
Yeah.
But if we go for a best blog,
yeah,
then won't that be like a startup of its own?
Well, no. Well, let's look at Kissmetrics, Buffer app. You need to. This is what I'm taking why I'm talking about take marketing seriously. It's easily maybe triple the effort. I don't know. It could be 100 times the effort marketing your product as building it. And as engineers, as an engineer, I get obsessed with what it does. But what I've learned is you've got to take the marketing seriously. And that means hours spent on it. That's the easiest metric. Number of phone calls, hours I spent looking for leads, hours I spent. Because then you know you're putting in the effort. And it's an easy rule of thumb. Measure how much time in your week you're spending marketing. And if it's a small number, you're probably going nowhere. Like you may be going nowhere. Certainly where I'm coming from, it's kind of prosumer space. Okay? So this is a bit of a gimme, right? This is kind of one person in a dungeon for 6 months. This is kind of, you're going to have to decide who does that. But this one here, free trial, that's kind of like a week of development effort. Let's call this 5 days to get a designer to read it up. So you can see, actually, okay, well, you'll probably prefer to do this one than this one straight away. Okay? Let's go over here. So we can raise our prices. This is kind of a gimme too, right? It takes a day or whatever to get the designer to do. So that's higher in your priority. You guys haven't raised yet, so something you can do straight away. Now, I mentioned a good point there. If you had raised, maybe you could get someone to do your content marketing full time, you know, and maybe that's something to do. Okay, and then what else? I can even read my own writing now. Okay, so money back guarantee. This is another one. 1 day, easy beginning, right? Now, of course, in case you weren't listening, I'm going to say spend all your time on the phone. Call all of your leads. You know, it's called customer development, but it's also called selling. You know, so like you just talk to your customers, try and pre-sell them on your app. Why not? It costs you nothing to be able to say, this is what we're doing. Would you like to pre-sell? Would you like to pre-buy? You know, and you'll be amazing the difference in reaction you get when you say, would you buy my product? Versus, would you buy my product? Can I have your credit card number? It's dramatically different. And my new rule of thumb for me now is I don't listen to anyone who hasn't given me a credit card number. Because their advice is not relevant. They're not, obviously, they don't feel the pain of my product enough to really want my product. And really, what does it care? It means no more people say no to me, but that's fine. What's that? That's just ego. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So, thank you very much. Oh, okay, no, we're almost finished. Right. So you can see what you do is here. It's dead simple. Come up with the ideas, then allocate resources. The whole point is you're supposed to do this stuff. Decide who in your team is going to do it, and fill out a full month of activities. You know, from the 30. I would recommend doing 30 on each side, picking 5. You do the top 5 you think are going to work best bang for a month. After a month, you measure, see which is working. You drop the bottom 3, you put in another 3, and you keep going. And in that way, you will find the marketing magic that's going to work for your product. Make sense? Okay, when I told you, probably when you came here to find out how to get your first 1,000 customers, you might have been looking for an easier way. But the good news is, it's hard for a reason, and probably your competition isn't doing it anyway. And so that you got that ahead. Now, there's only one last thing I want to talk about. I'll give away the book, actually. So, Jane, I'm going to give you the book, because you had a very excellent question. And do you have a current startup?
We do, yeah.
How many people are in it?
4.
4 people. Okay, cool. I'm going to give you the hour with Ben as well, because he'll help you set up your metrics. So let me talk about metrics for a little bit. Now, I said it earlier, I'll say it one last time, and this is my last point pretty much. If you don't know what's working, how do you know whether you should do it again? And what we are trying to do is to compound our marketing successes. That means it takes 1 in 10 strategies to get something that's really going to work. So what we got to do is we got to know how we're measuring it so we're able to repeat it again. So that demo of the year competition, we saw the relevance spike in sign-ups and customers after running it. So we knew to run it again the following year, and we've run it for 3 years now. That's the nirvana. And any one marketing strategy probably won't work for you, but the compounding effect of all of them will. So I'm not really going to talk about measurement. It's a really super interesting topic, and you're probably measuring the wrong things. I would recommend that I used to log in for years, have a look at my Google Analytics. It was so pretty. The graphs are amazing. I had no fucking idea what I should do afterwards. So there are 3 reasons, I think. 3 points I want to make here. First of all, what's the point of measuring? Someone tell me. Find out what is working. That's exactly it. That's half of the point.
And who is looking at it?
Sorry?
Who is watching? Who is using it?
Who is using your customer? Okay, that's okay. I don't agree. Yep.
Do more of what's working and less of what's
Yes, that's brilliant. I wish I'd not given away the book. That's the best answer. But I'm going to give you like 3 t-shirts. That is exactly the point. To do more of what's working and less of what's not working. And that second part is what everyone overlooks. Because you only have so much resources. You've got to ditch what's not working. You've got to know, you've got to try it hard enough, and then you've got to ditch it as quickly as possible and move on to and spend that time on something else instead. So when next time you log into analytics, first of all, everyone go on a course in analytics before you do anything. Second of all, next time you log in, ask yourself this question. I'm trying to figure out what should I do more of and what should I do less of. And it's really hard to do for business, but I recommend spend an hour each morning if you're in a tech business, just in analytics. Every morning, go into analytics, look at the traffic from the previous day, live it, breathe it, swim around in it, and eventually you'll start to see the patterns, you'll start to see the activities which are working best for you. Now, tons and tons of tools out there at the moment, but that's it. Now, last point about analytics, which is really important. when I was doing those phone calls, I didn't just use my Google Analytics. I also tracked how many times I called customers. And I tracked how many of those converted, which meant I had that 10% conversion rate I was raving about earlier, right? The important thing there is when I went to hire my first hire to do that work, I was able to point to all the beautiful data that I had, and I was able to see, look, you only have to call 10 people and one of them will buy. And you know what's going to mean to you? You're going to get a 20% commission, and that means your salary is going to be Y. And when you're recruiting your early salespeople, your early biz dev people, money works, right? And they need to know that what you're doing will work. They need to know that they're going to be able to pay their families and so on. So you're increasing the potential pool of people who can come and work in your company. And having the data to point to is a great help. Another quick point on that, always hire 2 people at the same time, always measure what they're doing, and make sure that they're hitting the same metrics that you know to be true. So I look for a 10% conversion rate from our sales team. Right now, don't talk to me, they're winding me up the wall. But at least I know what the benchmark is. And I know what the benchmark is because I did it from the start. So make sure you're measuring the right things, read the book, and I can talk about that for ages. Okay, I've talked for a long time. So let's... So, who haven't I delivered value for? Who haven't got what they wanted from this session? Don't be shy, I'm a tough guy. No one? Do you want to see me dance anyway? Yeah! Okay. I'm going to show you dance. I'm going to show you me dancing. Okay, this is, yeah, I don't know if this is actually pretty powerful. I don't know how to show this to you. But this is a video that my wife produced. Basically,
we're making it move, we're making it hot, we're giving it high. We're rocking the house, on this boat, we're making it fly. We're getting it going alright. You gotta get over tonight. Let's turn this place inside out. Yeah. Show me your moves. You're making me dance. Make me dance, baby. You're making me dance, 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 dance. Whoa, come on, dance with me. You're making me dance, 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 dance.
wait for it, the best yet to come.
Hey, you're making me dance, 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 dance. Whoa, you're making me dance, 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 dance. See that? Oh, you're making me dance, 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 dance. Whoa, you're making me dance, 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 dance.
My wife produced that promotional video for videos. She does explainer videos for startups. They kick ass. So if you know of anyone who wants one, please talk to them. Here's Priscilla. You can talk to her after about that. That's me. You can talk to me about any of this stuff we've been talking about now. I love it, and I really want to hear how you get on if you get to use any of it. If you're interested, follow me on Twitter, and I'll DM you like a worksheet which outlines how to do all the stuff we do. And that's it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, James. Thanks a lot. So that concludes our session, and I hope you guys found this as useful as I did, and we can use some of his tips. We will see you in our next meetup next month, and have a very pleasant good night.
Hi, how are you?
Actually, that's.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But, that's,
Why don't you email me?
what, so where are you guys looking? No, what is it? Okay, cool. What's in What part of the city do you usually go to?
Every day there are like one of my front-end developers.
Yeah, I usually go like from so that's when you're in the city, because I live like Tyson.
80% of the time I go.
Yeah, and I've got, like I said, like, we've done a lot of research. So I have a lot of materials. Someone
Question is like how many hits do I have? How many hits? They're gonna do a video for this. So we can come
Oh yeah, that's it. So I would go